Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce Ng. Joyce, we have a great amount of stuff to talk about this week.
Yeah, 192, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So good job. We did it.
The big headline, Joyce. Kieran Culkin, lead actor for Succession.
Yes. Correct placement. But a lot of people upset because they feel like he's giving up an easy supporting win.
I definitely did not see a non-zero amount of tweets of people putting him and Michelle Williams in The Fabelmans next to each other.
Um, it's insulting to both of them because first of all, you're just saying like neither of them are good enough to win and lead. Like
Right.
there's a lot of things that go into winning an award. But that's kind of like the implication. And it's also like the whole thought process of you just I mean in Kieran's case is like he has been in supporting before, so we're used to him being there, right? Um but it is very much like the kids are the leads this season ever since Logan died. So like the you would look at it differently if he had been submitting in lead this whole time, you know.
Exactly right. I think it's hard to argue watching the show that he is not a lead.
Mhm.
As he said here, this is his quote, Joyce. He talked to Variety's Awards Circuit podcast. If you're asking if he's a lead character, then I would say absolutely. I think this season was set up before episode 3 happened as Logan versus Shiv, Roman, and Kendall, and then Logan dies, and it's what I think the central focus of the show is, the three of them. And then later he said, if I'm supporting, that would mean Kendall and Shiv are also. And to me, that doesn't feel like the show. The show has always felt like an ensemble, but the center of gravity is this man, Logan. So it's always sort of silly to think of these things, who's lead, who's supporting, but it always felt like he's the lead and we're all dancing around him.
Yeah,
So
not wrong. He, nailed it.
I'm gonna guess the guy who's on the show and is acting in the character knows about like what he's talking about. Just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and we're already halfway done with the season. The show is almost over. We have 5 more weeks,
Don't
and
remind me. I
very,
can't.
very much a lead, like the trio. So this is also, suggestive of Sarah Snook probably likely going lead, as we've said before. Like they should push her lead, yeah, even before the season premiered. So
We're recording this on Wednesday, and as of yet, there has not been an exclusive Variety break of Sarah Snook going lead.
you know
But
what? Sarah is probably giving birth as we speak. She has bigger things to worry about. Like not everyone cares about awards placements.
yeah,
So
she absolutely, I think, would have to be going lead, especially again based on the season. Like if you're just watching it, she's a lead. I could almost argue that of the three of them, Jeremy is the least lead of the three. He's still a lead.
he'll probably have, this upcoming episode Living Plus, he has his smile back.
He does.
So he'll have some good stuff at the end.
It,
Just kind of like, last year, Too Much Birthday was the 7th episode.
right. It's always hard to like judge a show when you don't have the whole season. But I'm like, so I know they're gonna do more with Kendall. You're right. But I mean, so far it's been like, Sarah and Kieran have been like the prime movers, I would say, of this season.
Right. And I also hate like the reductive perception of Roman as a character as like, this guy who just has sarcastic clips. And it's like a fuck boy, but he's had a lot of emotional moments through the years, like not as much as this season, obviously. But they've always been there. And I think people think like that kind of comedic relief type of character can only win in supporting. But he has a lot of hefty material this season, like as the mountaintop scene this week, obviously, and then Connor's wedding, of course.
I get the feeling we've talked about this privately. I think people don't watch the show. Sometimes it feels like that when I read about it.
Um, yeah, I've seen, like excerpts from
Yeah,
certain recaps and stories, and I'm just like, I think you missed something here.
I definitely think a lot of the show goes perhaps over people's heads. Not to make it like I'm such an erudite, smart, intelligent viewer, Joyce, which I'm sure people watching this are like, absolutely not. You're a dumbass. But boy, like I saw like if you watch the most recent episode, you have that great moment with Roman on the mountaintop with Lucas Matson, and then Matson kind of screws them over pretty greatly by going with the biggest fucking number, but it means they have to,
192.
he's got to just stuff it down their throats, right? Like, it's like making them eat shit to have to sell to him, and he goes around them. It's a tremendous loss for Kendall and Roman, and I saw people being like, great negotiating. I'm like, no, it's not great negotiating. He screwed them.
I also think some of these like stories are, you know, assignments written by people who don't watch the show.
Yeah.
And like they're just kind of like reading like you know, some tweets or like recaps here and there just to get the pertinent information, but they don't really, like, there's not enough context. But no, it's the same thing with I saw a lot of comments about like, why did he or Lucas keep Carolina, Jerry, and Tom? It's like, because of Shiv. Did you miss that whole scene? That was the purpose of that whole scene.
Yes.
She protected the girls because she was like, Carolina's great. And then when he did his whole half a liter of frozen blood, you know, great True Blood crossover, by the way.
Just awesome.
Love it so much. And that was basically like his version of the dick pic.
Yes, it was, again, it's a credit to the Jesse Armstrong and the writers.
Yeah, they trust the viewers
to just pay attention, just a slight amount of
Yeah,
attention.
because earlier in the first meeting between him and Roman and Kendall, when Roman is like, "Oh, I saw your Kiki team did a win," and then Lucas is like, "Oh, good dossier. I have stuff on you too." It's like, ooh, like, did Jerry tell him? Like, you know, because like for the senior team, it's like survival of the fittest. Right. But then it's like that scene of Shiv is like, she's protecting the girls, and then she also wants to backstab Tom and throw him under the bus for ATN with the election. So it's like, did you watch the scene or not?
So no, I don't think they did. I would say the other thing I found interesting is that, like, man, you know, we've talked about this. People love dunking on Jeremy Strong for being so method. Dramaturgically, it makes sense to do so. But like, if you watch the post show Succession thing, Kieran, while has in the past definitely is not a method guy, and he's like kind of like talked about that a lot, he clearly was like very much in Roman's headspace in that scene, and he talked about like how he was so like wrapped up with the character that it was like he had like an emotional response to that scene, and then didn't even he had to go back up the mountain to like enjoy the view.
In the view, yeah.
And I'm like, you know, I mean, like, it just is funny when, you know, there's another show I love, Joyce, we've talked about before, Mrs. Davis, which in the end, not to spoil anything, but a lot of the message of the show is people like to have their priors confirmed, I would say.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is the world in which we live.
Confirmation bias.
A lot of that with the way we talk about Succession, because it's like, Jeremy's a doofus because he likes method acting, and Kieran's a dummy because he just like kind of does quips, but neither of those things are actually true, and Kieran seemingly takes it just as seriously as Jeremy Strong, if not more. I don't know
why you would think he doesn't, like, just because he's a fun interview IRL.
Yeah.
And, you know, is quick-witted, but he's been acting basically his entire life. Right. He's a great actor. And yeah, he's also in the post episode thing for Connor's wedding. He talked about the same thing and how it was such an emotionally devastating episode, and then he just had to go home and be a parent to his two young kids, you know, and it was so disconcerting. And he himself hasn't taken full credit, but like he and Mark Mylod have been crediting the other for coming up with the idea of doing the 30-minute long one take. And like, I can totally believe that's a Kieran idea.
Definitely.
You know, like,
especially because of his like theater background too.
Yeah.
Joyce, so now Kieran's now moved into lead. So now we have two categories to discuss here. I immediately put him in first place in lead based on so far what we've seen. I think he has been unbelievable this season. I love his performance. I think the nuance with Roman is just prime. And while I love Jeremy and Brian and I have them top three because fuck it, I have Kieran first. So I just went right to
I have him in first too. And the immediate impulse of people is to say he's not going to win at lead. I was like, he can totally win at lead.
I absolutely think he can win a lead. I mean, it definitely depends on like what's left for the rest of the season, like we said. And there could be like a bunch of haymaker Jeremy Strong moments where it just is like a no-brainer that we'll go back to him and have him win again, right? Because he's already won here. And I don't think Brian Cox will switch to supporting. I think he'll stay in lead. I still believe that. I don't think he's going to go.
I don't really care where he goes. And again, like if he stays in lead, just total peak Logan behavior.
If he went to supporting, I would have him winning. But if he doesn't, I'm going to not have him winning lead, but I'll still have him in. So I have the 3 Succession guys in, and I have Kieran winning. And yeah, I love it. I love having it. He's in 6th in our odds currently, but I just think a lot of people maybe haven't updated yet.
Yeah, people don't update, so it's fine.
Bob Odenkirk 1st in the odds.
He's been in 1st for a while.
Really gonna go. Everyone's gonna go down with that ship.
Well, so the other funny narrative that took off once Kieran made this move was that, you know, a lot of people just thought, well, like he, like assuming like regardless of whether or not Brian is there, because no one thinks he's winning lead now, but you know, everyone was like, Kieran and Jeremy will just split the vote and someone else will win. I'm like, no, because like vote splitting is not really a thing, or it's not always a thing.
Right.
And it just depends on the race. And like this happened 3 years ago with Jeremy and Brian. Like people thought neither of them could win. And I never felt that. I felt like the 2 of them are going to monopolize so much of the vote that none of the other 4 would be able to catch up. It's like one of the 2 of them is going to win. And it was like the same thing last year in supporting with Matthew and Kieran. I'm like, I feel like they're just so far ahead that one of them is going to win. And I think it comes down more to passion, whether it's the actor or the show or whatever. And Succession does have that passion right now. So I feel like if it's just Jeremy and Kieran in lead, I think the 2 of them are just going to be so far ahead. And it's just going to come down to, you know, once we have full view of the season, like who maybe had the best material, which is also subjective depending on how you receive the performances, and then, you know, who has momentum going into September.
Right.
Like this thing happened, you know, with Ted Lasso 2 years ago when, you know, they got 4 supporting actors in, and then people were like, they're not winning, Bowen Yang's going to win. And then it became very clear that the passion was behind Brett Goldstein, especially in season 2 airing and Rainbow. So it's like, he's winning. Like, this is not going to be a problem. And then the inverse of that was like 4 years ago with 4 Game of Thrones actresses. And I was like, well, none of them are going to win. Because like, first of all, they just love Peter Dinklage. Like he's the only person they're going to give Emmys to. And then all of these people, like these actresses, they all like, there's no consensus favorite between any of them. And I was like, Julia Garner's going to win. And now in retrospect, since she's won 3 Emmys, we see that they're just in love with Julia Garner and Ruth Langmore. You know, like she had the passion.
Right. I want to go back to this too. I think Jeremy's actually been really good this season also, because I think what they're doing with Kendall is great, because it's like nuanced. It's very nuanced to me, because it feels like Kendall acting like he thinks he should be acting, right? Like a lot of it is like, he's been like that a lot the whole time in this show, where he's like doing things that he thinks he should be doing, right? Or like how he should be behaving as like a captain of industry, or like his father's son, or whatever it is. And like he's been doing that this season too, even though it doesn't seem like his heart is really in it as much. And I do think that's like fascinating, and I would love to see how they kind of roll that through the rest of the season. And that's why I think he could have like a lot of great stuff in the back half here. But I just think Kieran's been just like over the top awesome this season. So that's why I put him in first over Jeremy.
Yeah. And then it's also like, if you think HBO is going to back one of them, like maybe they're going to put more weight behind the person who hasn't won yet too.
Sure. Right.
You know?
So I had him in first for supporting before this, Kieran. I was on the Kieran train this season because, again, it's been great. I've now moved Tommy, Lip Balm Tom, Matthew McFadden, up to first.
You mean the fucking Spelunker?
Yeah. I love it. One of the most shocking things this season I've seen in any show was when he flicked Shiv's ear. I literally was like, oh my God, I could not believe that.
Like that entire scene, just epic.
So I immediately
also like maybe like the most romantic scene between the 2 of them. It's just like that.
Horrifyingly so, but yes. So I moved him into first, and I'm very confident that he will be another winner here, because I just think, again, there's going to be a lot more Tom and Shiv as the season kind of progresses. So and thus far he's been great. as well. I just thought Kieran was like exceptional this season, so that's why I had Kieran at first. But Matthew, with what he had in the first episode and a lot of the stuff he's had since,
Well,
has
yeah,
been
because
wonderful.
now he has to fire Sid, and might have to take the fall for ATN if they expose Jared Menken's line to the ATN
Or
editorial.
does he just blame? They're going to just blame Sid on that, and then him and Tommy, him and Shiv get back together.
They're still together legally.
I mean, sure. Like,
they're not divorced yet. They're just
not yet.
They're separated. They're not divorced. He's Thomas Chabon. This episode had so many savage burns.
It was amazing.
I
really
Walter
loved it.
guy. Oh God.
Already so rich. I loved Kendall. I thought Kendall was like pretty good in this episode because again, like just like already rich, I thought was a great comeback to
and then when A-Scars and Oscar were talking in Swedish. Again, great, very referential, just having A-Scars say there's more of them. Are you all related? Is just peak hilarity. And then Kendall saying, is it funnier with subtitles?
Kendall in that scene was great. And I just love this show. But I just think the writing is so great is that we've seen Kendall stand up for like the little guy in the past. Like he did that with Roman. And even though Kendall is like a grade A asshole in a lot of different ways, he does have this like streak of wanting to defend people who are being bullied, which I find like interesting as part of his character. And he did that with Greg there. And then obviously used Greg to like kind of funnel information out very ham-fistedly, which was very obviously something that Mattson immediately kind of called out, and Scooby doing it, as he said.
It's the Hanna-Barbera School of Business.
So all this being said, I moved out with an empty spot. I moved Alexander Skarsgård into supporting, even though I still don't think he's going to be eligible here. But for now, we could pick him.
I think he will be. I think he'll just probably be missing in the election episode. But we already know he's in next week's.
Right.
So that's 3 already.
So if he gets 2 more.
Yeah, like he definitely will be in 2 more. Like, come on.
So I put him in because I just think his performance is unbelievable. He was so good in this episode, I thought.
Yeah, I haven't I think my favorite scene was him listening so earnestly to Shiv when she was explaining why you can't be sending people your blood.
Well, first, I would say stop sending people your blood. Just a great Sarah Snook scene there. Another reason she should go lead. He goes, I'm sending her, and it's Ebba sending her blood, and she's like, okay.
Yeah, and then when she's like, don't fire her, and he's like, yeah, good call.
It's incredible. The way she's so good. I just love her in the show. I have her winning too in supporting actress, as maybe you could guess, over Jennifer Coolidge. But I still think Sarah will go lead, so this will probably all change.
I think she'll go lead. I'm just not gonna touch actress or supporting actress until we have that news. I'm like, I don't need to think about this anymore, or for now. But yes, I put A-Scars in Kieran's stead. So I grouped my drama supporting actors by show.
Sure.
So I had Matthew, and then eldest son, Alan Ruck, who, everyone is stepping on my beat now. Like, I've been supporting eldest son since season 3. He didn't get in last year, but I immediately put him in this year, and now everyone's getting on because of the karaoke scene and Connor's wedding. But I got him at 100 to 1. So
nice.
And A-Scars, and then Nicholas Braun. And I can't tell if like Brian goes supporting. I don't know who is more vulnerable between everyone not named Matthew. Unless
all of them would
get like 5 supporting Succession guys, which I think could happen too. Because I think they absolutely would get 5. Not that deep.
No, I have 5. I would have 5 getting in if Brian's in here.
Yeah. And then I have my double Better Call Saul. They did not get any nominations in this category last year. So who knows what will happen this year. But Jonathan Banks got the SAG nomination, 7. And I have Giancarlo Esposito. And then I just have 2 White Lotus dudes, F. Murray Abraham and Michael Imperioli, who I'm not sure about either. And I feel like this season, last season, obviously, Murray Bartlett was the fave. But I think I enjoyed Jake Lacey more than, no offense, any of the White Lotus guys in season 2.
So I have sort of a couple of tweaks, but I have almost the same top three as you. I have Matthew first, and I have Skarsgård in second because I think he's just been unbelievable. And then I have Ruck in third. Then I have Elijah Wood on Yellow Jackets in fourth, who I am loving in the season. He's so funny, and like his pairing with Christina Ricci is awesome. And while the season I think has been like slow to get going, it just feels like not a lot. It's just been like I'm enjoying it, but
Well,
it just
yeah,
doesn't
because
feel like a lot has
now,
happened.
yeah, I haven't watched the 7 and 8 screeners. Have you?
I haven't watched any of the screeners yet, so but
But
I'm
like
really
six,
loving him.
six is coming in not this week, but
Yeah,
next
they
week.
delayed it for a week.
So that's a big episode.
I just love. I think Elijah could get in. I think he's so good on it, and the fact that he's doing everything with Christina Ricci is a huge benefit to him. I think so. I have him in fourth. I have Giancarlo Esposito in fifth, and then I have F. Murray Abraham. But I'm not thinking. I don't think that's going to happen either, honestly. And I was thinking too from White Lotus. And then I have Nicholas Braun and John Lithgow for The Old Man, who I'm enjoying because I have to watch The Old Man, Joyce. It's coming up on one of my panels.
I like the old man,
and he's great.
but
He's
I got
great.
rid of all my old men. Well, I never had John, sadly. But I dropped Jeff Bridges to put in Kieran.
Oh wow, I have Kieran. I have Jeff Bridges in still, and I dropped Diego Luna, I think, for Andor. But the problem with Everett Abraham and Michael Imperioli, an actor who I absolutely love, obviously because of The Sopranos and everything else he's done for Martin Scorsese and Spike Lee and a million other things, is the supporting actors who are better on that season of White Lotus are Theo James and Will Sharp. I think they have like the better material and more like fun parts. And you would put F. Murray Abraham and Michael Imperioli in because of being F. Murray Abraham and Michael Imperioli. But I wonder if you watch the show, you'd be like, are they actually doing enough, basically? I mean, I think F. Murray Abraham probably does. But
because I think like Theo and Will would, as on a restricted ballot, if they had the passion, they wouldn't get in. But I don't know if there is like as much kind of overwhelming excitement over the male performers this season as there was last season, or even the male performers this season compared to the female performers like Aubrey and Megan,
right?
You know, outside of Jen. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the White Lotus men.
No, and yeah, I have no idea, but that's what I got. And I've been iffy on Greg's arc this season, but I think he was like great in this last episode, and I feel like he'll be safe. Nicholas Braun.
I think that, you know, he's a 2-time nominee, so I feel like he could just get in just because of that. And I think like the criticism of Greg and or any shortcomings of his arc this season so far is I think it's kind of like fan and viewer base and maybe not necessarily viewed the same by voters.
I think that's
because they just like the character so much.
He's such a and again another character I think will probably have a lot to do in the later episodes here. Certainly in the election episode, I feel like we'll have more Greg. You can't make an omelet without breaking some Gregs.
But he has other Greglets, Tom.
Anything else here in just drama here, Joyce? Before we go to limited series, where there was another category switch.
No, I don't think so. I guess, you know, again, we're just waiting on Sarah.
Yeah, nothing to say about those categories, but I do think she should go lead. I mean, and then
I think she can win and lead. So
I totally agree. And then I would say if she goes lead, I think that opens up a spot for our beloved Willa.
Justine Loop and JSC together. I'm here for it.
Hell yeah, so. That'd be great. Or Carolina, Dagmara Desmani.
Dagmara Dominchek. Yeah, I love Carolina, and I'm one of the great things about Logan dying is that the supporting players, you know, his executive suite has a lot more to do. Just impeccable Frank and Carl content.
Let the good times roll.
Poor bastards.
Like Pete King Duck. Fucking
and
great.
He
Love
just,
him.
Grabs his robe. Oh,
so good. Get David Raschi in there. Let's get him in. What
if the whole category all 8 slots with Succession actors.
Peter Friedman, David Raschi. Let's go.
I also want to give a shout out to Fisher Stevens. Just the other thing I love about Succession is its commitment to Olympics references.
Yes.
So we got a lot of that. You know, I love the Olympics, so
I
I appreciated that this week. And just Hugo's vendetta against their ski jumper, who
So good.
was almost huge, winning a bronze. So
then in limited this week, Joyce, another variety exclusive. You'll be shocked to know that Elizabeth Olsen is going to be a lead actress for Love and Death.
never would have guessed.
You've had her winning there for weeks.
I have, and I think she still can, but it got decimated by the reviews, and the show is not as bad as some of the reviews might have you think. Like, I know there's like a score of 10 from someone on Metacritic. I was like, it's not that terrible, guys. It's like it's very fine.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I called something to you the day before.
You did. We're having lunch, Joyce. Mandatory fun lunch. And at the lunch, you said, I think Jesse Plemons should go supporting for Love and Death. And then less than a day later, Jesse Plemons is supporting for Love and Death. So I put him in. I took out my boy Young Mazzino for Beef.
Wow, you're going off of Beef.
A little.
Yeah, I watched Love and Death a couple weeks ago, and I like whenever people, which was like 2 people, have asked me about it, I was like, I think Jesse should go supporting because he's not really around in the second half of the show. Like it's basically 2 halves. It's the affair in the beginning, and then obviously the murder, and then the trial in the back half. And so he's obviously in the first half when they're having the affair, and then he just has like his testimony scene during the trial.
Right.
And it's the complete opposite with Tom Pelphrey's character, who plays Elizabeth Olsen's lawyer. He's a personal injury lawyer who became her defense attorney, and a fellow churchgoer. So he's not really around in the first half of the show, but then he's all over the second half of the show, and he gets a lot of speechifying in court, as you would expect from a David E. Kelley show. He also has shirtless scenes. Like you see him sunbathing and showering. So a lot of Tom Pelphrey in the back half. So to me, I was like, Jesse and Tom are like the same, and they should be in supporting. So they did it. And I put him in supporting too. I don't know if he will get in, but like that category is pretty soft.
So who'd you take out then?
I dropped Murray Bartlett for Welcome to Chippendales, because I don't know if anyone has watched that.
So maybe I should do that instead of Young Mazzino. But I also feel like the lack of name recognition, I was like, those were the 2 I was thinking of dropping. And I was just like, Murray Bartlett's getting in for Last of Us. And I feel like since he won already, he's maybe just a name check at this point if you see him out there. So you just want to put him in. And Young Mazzino, obviously a newcomer, even though he's great on Beef.
Yeah, but if they just like Beef, they'll vote for him. Like I don't. True. It doesn't. Name recognition doesn't like really, or the lack of name recognition doesn't really matter if they like your show and they like your performance.
Right. I mean, that definitely makes sense. Do you still have Lizzie?
I mean, I was debating between dropping Murray and Ray Liotta.
I thought Ray Liotta too, but I just not going to do it.
I didn't do Ray because I'm like, well, they're getting 2 acting nominations between Taron and PWH. So I'm like, they might just nominate him too. It's like, we know like it's seen ish. Like, I don't know by how many people, but like it's seen.
It definitely, and it had the benefit of being out for a while.
Well, yeah, I mean, like Welcome to Chippendales has been out too, but it's like that has gotten less traction than Blackbird. So
okay, I'll take out Murray and put in Young again. Sorry, Young Mazzino. It was brief. I briefly moved off you.
I mean, you know what? I have like 4 Beef people now.
I put Ashley Park in too.
Yeah.
Because why not?
I mean, those supporting categories, just anything can happen, and
pretty rough.
Yeah. I put her in. Who did I even take out? I took out Merrick Weaver just because like Tiny Beautiful Things has been very, very quiet since it premiered. So even though I also took out Catherine Hahn. So
who did you put in for Jesse and lead?
I would just put back Steve Carell. I had him in there before.
Okay.
I had him in there before Beef moved to Limited. So then I dropped him for Stephen Yeun.
Right.
Well, a lot of people are angry about now. So
yeah, I don't think anybody cares about that though in real life.
No.
Voters, I mean, voters don't care about that.
Yeah, and it's like, even if they know about the controversy with David Cho, like, they're not gonna punish people who are not responsible for it, like, specifically, you know?
Right.
So
we save that for online, Joyce.
yeah, a lot of controversies exist solely online, and a lot of people are not aware of it in the real world. It also cracked me up when you know, the internet was canceling Steven. Damon Lindelof Instagram high praise for Swarm and Beef. So it's just like, there you go.
I put Jesse Eisenberg back in. I don't know. This category is wild. I have Stephen Yeun, Evan Peters, Taron Egerton, Woody, and Justin for White House Plumbers, and then Jesse Eisenberg. But I guess Carell or Michael Shannon for George and Tammy. I don't know. Daniel Radcliffe for Weird. Those are people higher.
I don't know. I'm kind of, you know, I've said before, I think limited series might just be 5 slots again. They won't have enough submissions for 6. And I'm kind of sort of hoping the lead categories will be 5 too, just so I don't have to stress over predicting a 6th person.
Yeah, I don't know. Pretty tough. I mean, I could see Radcliffe getting in because that Weird is never going away. It's going on 2 years of people talking about it.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. Like, it's a TV movie.
Yeah.
And it's not like a serious TV movie, so.
True. That's all I got here in limited, Joyce. Anything else here?
Did you do anything to actress?
Not really. I still have. I mean, this is what I had, and I still have it. I have Jessica Chastain and Rachel Weisz. I guess maybe did we talk about Dead Ringers? I put her in. People really love that performance, it seems.
She's great on the show, and I think she might just be a solo nom. This is what I always felt about the show before seeing a second of it, but it just seems like too cerebral, and the topics it covers is like too much for both voters maybe, or some voters, and the general public.
Yeah.
Like there's like just a lot of stuff in the pilot or the first episode where it might be a turnoff for viewers, but she's great, and you immediately can tell the twins apart.
Yeah.
So I put her into, I dropped your fave, Lizzie Kaplan.
I have Lizzie Kaplan out on the outs too. I have so I have Jessica Chastain, Rachel Weisz, Elizabeth Olsen, Dominique Fishback for Swarm, Ali Wong for Beef, and Riley Keough for Daisy Jones.
I have Emily Blunt instead of Daisy. So they're other Amazon lady.
I just feel like Emily Blunt at this point, again, could still get in. I have no idea. I have no inside information on what Amazon is doing, but it just seems like if you're ranking the shows and their priorities, the English would not be ahead of Swarm, Dead Ringers, or even Daisy Jones, I would say, based on how they've like reacted.
You mean the general public reaction? Well, I mean, the general public reaction, the most popular would be Daisy Jones.
Well, I think it's a general public reaction. I think it's just when you see like how Amazon is like kind of promoting these things. I mean, the English is older also. That probably.
But that could also help it. Like, she got the SAG nomination too.
True. And we've seen that having older stuff works. And
yeah, I think like Dominique and Rachel are in the same boat of they could just be the lone nominees for their shows. Especially because I feel like the Swarm buzz just lasted for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, true.
But you know, she's like such a standout on the show, and is like both of them are the type of performances that would benefit on a restricted ballot.
Yeah.
And then I like Emily, I don't know. Like, again, I kind of just want 5 slots here and
Yeah.
be done with it. So yeah, I could see her missing, but I think like if you watch the show, it's a great performance. It's a great show.
Mhm.
It's better than, a lot of stronger shows, not just in limited series, but in other categories. But yeah, it's hard to tell, like, because like none of these shows, like none of like Amazon's shows have really taken off,
Right. That's true.
Yeah, but like Daisy is the most popular of the
Popular.
genre.
Certainly.
So
Joyce, we can move to some listener emails here before we sign off. At Gold Derby, slugfest at goldderby.com. I still don't know the email address. We've only been doing this for like a year.
please spell it again and take up 45 seconds doing so.
No, slugfest at goldderby.com. The first one here is from David L, not Grammar David. Hi, Chris and Joyce. When you were making your guest actor predictions, I think you left off one possible contender out, Molly Shannon, for hosting SNL. She's hands down the funniest contender this season. It's hard to believe she doesn't have an Emmy for years of brilliant work. Do you think she has a shot and can get? And could Steve Martin and Martin Short win for hosting SNL like Tina and Amy did?
Yes to the second. The first, I mean, like maybe, sure. I don't know. I don't know where they are really with SNL hosts or guest contenders. Like last year Jason Sudeikis was heavily predicted to be nominated and he wasn't. So
I'll tell you what, I listened to David. I put her in.
You put her in, you felt pressured?
Well, also because I had 2 poker face people and I'm just like, I don't trust it.
I don't trust it either. I think I do too.
So I took out Judith Light, even though she's third in the odds over Cherry Jones, and I kept Cherry Jones in for Poker Face. And I put Molly Shannon in instead of Judith Light.
I mean, I don't have any SNL people in actress.
I have
As
Quinta
you
Brunson
recall,
winning.
I dropped Quinta Brunson for Lauren Weedman.
Sure.
So.
I have Quinta winning. The other part of David's email, I think you'll get a kick out of, Joyce. He writes, I wanted to educate you, Chris, on the timeline of the MCU post-Endgame after the most ridiculous theory you made about based on Brie Larson's hair in the Marvels trailer. If you might remember, I said, why does she have different hair? Is Marvel's maybe a time travel thing where she's coming from the 90s into the present day, right? Something like that. David writes, the Marvels takes place about a year after Endgame. Yes, Brie's hair was cut short in Endgame, but she grew it back out if you remember her hair in the mid-credit scene of Shang-Chi, and she has long hair now. Use your noggin, Chris. Also love you and Joyce's taste on who should win. Succession, Maisel, and Barry are the best and deserve it. I feel like I'm having fatigue with Ted Lasso and Abbott Elementary because their comedy is now dry. They're fine, but not as funny.
I mean, we kind of talk about the timeline when you brought this up because it has been a year since the events of Endgame because we went through a whole phase. So
not time travel from the 90s.
No.
Okay.
So
Kevin Feige called me though, because I think that's a pretty good idea.
Is it though?
Especially with The Flash. The Flash is all about that shit, as we found out from CinemaCon last night.
Zaz has seen it 3 times.
Tom Cruise loved it. Zaz loved it. James Gunn loved it.
Tom Cruise loved it allegedly. So
reportedly loved it. Zaz loved it. It's the greatest superhero movie he's ever seen.
Yeah.
Zaz loves superhero movies.
Yeah. I mean, he got Keaton and Ben back. So
yeah, let's go nuts.
Yeah. I mean, did you listen to Ben Affleck on Smartless a couple of weeks ago?
No.
He was talking about how great it was, The Flash. So
I mean, I'm excited. Let's go. I'm looking forward to it.
He said he finally, I mean, he's talked about it before, but he finally figured out how to play Batman.
Yeah, he's only in it for 5 minutes. It's great.
Yeah, like he was like shooting a scene with Gal, and I finally figured out like, oh, this is how I should have been doing it. So great stuff. Yeah.
Next question comes from Steve, Joyce. You can email us at slugfest@goldderby.com like Steve did. Steve writes, hey guys, longtime listener, first time questioner. First of all, love your show. The fun chemistry between you two makes it so easy to listen to while being so informative and thoughtful. My question is about Schmigadoon. I don't have hopes for any comedy series But the second season is doing well critically with a 97% Rotten Tomatoes score. Is there any chance someone like Cecily Strong in lead or Jane Krakowski or Titus Burgess in supporting as former nominees could get in as surprise for their great performances in the second season, especially because the Emmys love nominating former nominees and the show has been nominated before in the crafts categories? Thanks so much for your fun podcast and YouTube video. That's Steve from Tampa.
Steve. Hi,
Very
Steve
nice.
from Tampa.
Yeah.
Well, it's a winner. It won music and lyrics
Yeah.
last year, so it could win that again. A lot of songs.
A lot of songs.
I think their focus is, or probably will be, Jane Krakowski. She got a lot of play for that third episode.
Big show-stopping number.
Yeah, all over Twitter.
It's a great number. She's just not in it very much, but I would love to see her nominated. I mean, it is, if just get her in for that, sure.
Yeah, again, we've talked about this before. It's just really hard to gauge how big non-TED and non-morning show Apple shows are. And it's like, some of these other shows are able to get craft nominations and wins. But then it's like, do they have enough support for the actors specifically? And for supporting actress, that's kind of crowded,
right,
that category. So yeah, I wouldn't predict her myself right now.
And I would say if there was going to be, we talked about this like last week with supporting actress, like maybe Juno Temple was vulnerable, but this week's Ted Lasso remembered that both her and Toheeb Jamo were great characters and Emmy nominees who people liked, and then put them back
way too long.
And then put them back.
Another hour-long episode, 58 minutes.
I love this episode though, because I was like, oh, you know what characters I like? Keely and Sam. And you know who were in this episode? Keely and Sam. It's
still not a great storyline for her character, but it's, the show is at its best when it's just focusing on the game and the right character, like the character you care about, right? So it's done that the past 2 episodes, but I think it's still too self-indulgent in the runtimes. I could just need like a solid 30-minute episode.
I don't mind the runtimes, but I was watching the season, I was just like, I see what they're doing and you could see like the arcs and everything, but I just wish it was a little tighter. And again,
there's no need to be an hour long.
Or just like the way it's structured. Like, I mean, like not having Sam and not having Keely really represented almost at all in the last 3 episodes. And now we're up to episode 6, right? So it's or is this 7 that just aired?
7.
So there's only 5 episodes left. And it's you finally got Sam in here who is a breakout character. And I'm just now we're going to rush to get all the stuff that they've kind of been setting up.
Which makes no sense because it's they've had so much runway with, these long episodes. So they could have been doing devoting time to these characters and writing, proper stories for them. But instead it was just kind of focusing on different things or less important things and then doing away with those aspects and then bring it back. So it just feels very, it's not a waste of time, but it's just why did you spend so much time doing this?
Right.
Here when it could have been tighter. It could have just been, a tight 30 minutes.
Yeah. I don't disagree, but I don't think it's a waste of time, but I just wish it was.
It's not. It's just did we really need to do that in an hour?
Right. I think that's it. Or just not having these characters who were so good and Emmy nominated and not having them represented at all. It's just
and then introducing these new characters to just dispense with so quickly.
Right.
So, but then, wait, what was that one? Oh, Cecily and Lead. I think it's the same thing with Jane and supporting.
I mean, Lead is a little lighter, I guess, but I don't think it'll happen.
There's fewer spots,
right,
in Lead too.
Right.
I would predict her for SNL before I would predict her for
Sure.
Schmigadoon. Dearly
And then the last email here we'll do this one from Faisal, another former emailer, big fan. Hi, Chris and Her Majesty Queen Joyce. Big fan of the show. This is a question for Emmys 2024. Faisal just going right into next year. He's like, screw this. What about next year? Skip Oscar season. Let's go into Emmys. With Curb Your Enthusiasm set to return sometime this year, with the season 12 rumored to be the final season, do you think it has a chance at winning comedy series next year as a way of honoring the long-running iconic show, having never won before? Maybe Larry David for lead actor? Of course, this is all dependent on being a phenomenal final season and ending. It won't have to worry about Ted Lasso, and unless The Bear season 2, Abbott season 3, or Hacks season 3 are huge, I don't see a major frontrunner early on. I only recently watched and became a fan of it, so I'm not too familiar with its Emmys history. Well, Faisal, I don't think its Emmys history is very good.
It'll get nominated. It's not going to win. That's what's going to happen.
I mean, I have Ted holding on by its fingers to win this year. So I think it's a possibility that Abbott is going to go into next year as the reigning champion, right? Like, or the Bear. Those seem like very likely alternate picks to Ted for this year's Emmys.
Yeah.
And so like,
and then Hacks will be back.
And
so
Hacks will be back
will be back.
Right.
And then who knows what else we will have.
You could argue that could be Hacks' final season too. How many more years are they going to do this show?
Well, I talked to Paul W. Downs a couple months ago.
Tell me about it.
And then he was great, obviously. So, and he, you know, I mean, we were joking about like how we would do stuff in like season 17 or whatever. But, you know, he was just saying how like they don't have like a definitive roadmap, but they just have like ideas like they want to do. And like season 3, they're going to do a time jump. And they felt like that would kind of like refresh the show because like season 2 picked up right after the season 1 finale, right? So, but yeah, like they don't it's not like a Yellow Jackets where they're like, oh, we're gonna do 5 seasons, you know. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna be like a long running show by like I don't think there's gonna be a season 17 of Hacks.
No.
But or a season 12 like Curb. Curb will get in. They'll nominate it. It'll get a bunch of nominations.
Yeah, but I don't think it's gonna win.
No, it's not gonna win. So that if it was gonna win, it would have won 20 years ago.
I think that's
so yeah, but I was actually talking about this with some of my friends and how I'm gonna have nothing to root for in drama next year because my faves are gone, Succession and Better Call Saul. So I'm just gonna have like just random shows next year in drama.
You got to
like,
find a new show.
I don't need to. It's just they're just gonna be. I'm just not gonna care as much about any of the nominees. It's just like these shows exist and they'll be nominated and it's fine. So yeah. You know, it's like, you know, there's probably gonna be a strike next week.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what will happen with how long that lasts if it happens. And you know, some networks have a lot of stuff in the can already.
Not to sound too cynical, Joyce, and not that I've read a lot about this, but what I've read, it sounds like when the strike happens, because it seems inevitable that it will, no one will be really interested in negotiating. None of the studios will be really interested in negotiating because they could just write off and get rid of a bunch of deals that they're upset about having to pay. So it'll be at least a couple of months, right, to like kind of wipe out some stuff, and then they'll come back maybe in the fall and like reconnect. So a lot of stuff maybe will be delayed going into
but like, you know, once, you know, some things have, you know, if you're just in post and like you're fine, you know, you just can't be writing anything new or doing rewrites.
Like stuff could happen, like still be in production and stuff. It doesn't mean that
you just can't do rewrites.
You're just not going to do rewrites.
So
yeah.
And then, you know, something like Apple has a bunch of stuff like ready to go. Like they're rolling out stuff in May that's not going to be eligible. Like Patty Arquette, High Desert. So
City on Fire, I think.
June, so
my favorite, City on Fire.
Yeah. So it's just a lot of stuff you think should be eligible, and maybe like Silo that's also not
Mm-hmm.
watchable. So
Well, today we're doing this Wednesday, and Netflix said Black Mirror is coming back in June. Felt like that could easily come back in May, I'd imagine, if it wasn't. But maybe they're like, let's just save it.
and just like that in June.
Yeah, let's save that too.
Yeah.
So
It's like you just have like they'll be eligible for next cycle. So then it could be maybe it'll be super empty next year.
I mean, maybe
We'll
I don't
have
know.
another like 2021 of like Emily in Paris
That'd
getting
be
in.
awesome. That'd be so awesome. Joyce, this was so fun. We'll be back next week to talk about other stuff, I guess. I don't know what we'll even talk about. More Succession, I'd imagine.
Maybe Sarah will have moved by then.
True.
So
We
yeah.
can only hope. Talk to you later, Joyce. Bye.